And when I met D, I was 15 and D's 34. And being like a young teenager, kind of a smart ass, uh, at, after D accepted the award, I walked up to D and introduced myself to him and said, hey, my name's Gary Klein, D. Thomas, I looked him right in the eyes and said, one of these days I will be better than you.
No way. You looked D. Thomas in the eye on the dock after he won that tournament?
Yeah.
A 15-year-old cocky kid.
Exactly. And D was 34. D was 34.
Woo!
And I'll never forget it. He reached out and grabbed my back and just sucked me into his chest and looked me dead in the eyes and said, bring it on.
Oh, what a great story to start the show.
That was the beginning of my relationship with D. Thomas. And I became the son that D did not have. D had 3 daughters and they didn't fish. So I spent a lot of time driving from Orville down to San Jose and fishing with D on the Delta. We fished Comanche. We fished Butte Creek, Center Bypass. And my first experiences with D, he had a 14-foot aluminum boat with a 20-horse Mercury on it, no trolling motor. He had a paddle, and he had a little seat made for the gun or the very nose of his boat, and he would climb up there and sit down on a 2x6, paddle with one hand with a 12-foot dipping stick. That's how I learned to originally flip. And it really wasn't so much flipping. It was more, kind of swimming the jig along and in and out because you're moving the jig with the rod tip and literally never pulling the jig out of the water. We'd go down the Tule berms on the Delta and just kind of drift with the current. He would poke the rod in and out with a black hair jig. But it was so amazing, Byron, when he'd get a bite on a 5-pounder with that 12-foot rod, he'd drop the paddle and hit the fish like this. And then he would reach up and grab the center part of the rod, turn around and bounce it in my lap and say, take it off my hook, son.
That's what Tule dipping was. That was where Tule dipping came from. And 12-foot rods and Tule dipping and not the flipping, pitching, none of this, just that.
Exactly. Oh. And what happened with D is D just fished and he was really good at it. And then D got talked into fishing, the tournaments because they were kind of starting team events. And when D started fishing team events, he was very successful. I mean, he would win. And what actually happened is that at one of the events, the night before the tournament, there was a newly formed tournament committee that came to his hotel door and informed D of the new tournament rules. The tournament rules were the length of the rod. So when they knocked on D's door and presented him with this issue, and D had his 12-footers with no reels, and D told the guys, what rod length do I need to have to be legal? And they said, we have no idea. You pick a length. So D said 7.5. And that's why I think there's been an 8-foot restriction for years.
Right.
D walked out to his truck that night and took a hacksaw and cut his rods cut the blank to the length. And what do you think happened the next day? He still won, but it presented him a problem because he didn't have the reach. Right. So then that's when he started figuring out how to tape a reel, and he just taped guides on his blank. But then he had to figure out how to increase his distance. And that's what created the actual technique of flipping, not pitching, but flipping.
That where you're doing this and that right there was the flipping technique. I had no idea that D. Thomas was taking 12-foot rods and cutting them down to, he said 7.5. He didn't even say 8 more later, but it started at 7.5.
That was how, our sport was evolving. Our techniques were evolving to what they are today, but there was a lot of history there. And to be a part of that history, that's why I say, the fishing has been so good to me, because I'm still that 15-year-old high school kid that has a deep passion for fishing.